Hey everyone, Nick here again, back to talk about Fear the Walking Dead. This is my review of episode 6 of season 4. And this season has just continued to hit it out of the park, and this episode was no exception. And I think at this point, Fear the Walking Dead has officially mastered The Walking Dead's ability to cause beautiful pain. Like, it hurts you, it rips your heart out, it makes you angry at it, but it still hooks you. It still finds a way to keep you excited for what's going to happen next. This episode had a lot of character development this week, not as much as the previous episode, but still a significant amount. One person I thought got a lot of really good development was Strand. I mean, he's never done developing. Like, he has layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And they keep finding more layers to him, and it adds to his mystique, his oeuvre, if you will. And it makes him continuously one of the most interesting characters on the show. I know there are a lot of people out there that don't like him, and I can see why, because at times he can be a jerk. But I've never heard anyone say that Strand is boring, because no one can say that with honesty. But probably the most significant development this week came from Naomi. We finally got some more of her backstory and some more of an explanation as to why she's always trying to run, why she's a flight risk. But hearing her backstory, it made her more interesting, more compelling as a character, which I really did appreciate. I mean, I already liked her, but this was another interesting layer to her that was added, and I appreciate that. And hearing her backstory was it was pretty rough. Like, it was a pretty heartbreaking reveal, and yeah, it was they really nailed that. They nailed the emotions of that one, dialogue-wise, and performance-wise. It was just very well done, I thought. Now, this season has been basically promising to gradually unravel the mystery about it more and more as it goes along. And I think it is doing that in an awesome way. It's just, the ways that it's doing it are increasingly tense. Like, every new bit of information you hear makes you a lot more worried about what's going to happen in the present timeline, in sepia tone land. But yeah, just the way that it's giving out answers to all the questions it's been asking, it's giving them out with a growing sense of unnerve. Like, it's very more unnerving every time you hear something new. And I think it's pretty well done. It makes it very interesting, and much like Strand, it is not boring, even though I have heard a lot of people complaining that it's kind of frustrating that they're doing it back and forth. And I'm just like, but are you bored? Huh? Exactly. Although I did enjoy this episode, it was not as good as last week's episode, which I honestly didn't think it would be, since I proclaimed last week's episode the greatest Fear the Walking Dead episode of all time. But this one was not as good, and it had a few issues for me. The scenes at the FEMA zone, like safe zone, whatever it was, it looked like it was some sort of stadium of some kind, not the baseball stadium, but it honestly looked like it could have been like a basketball stadium or something. But whatever it was, I thought those scenes were pretty intense and pretty entertaining, but my problem that I'm having with it is that the explanation as to how it fell, how it got overrun, is kind of questionable. Because Naomi said that it was her zombified daughter that she tried to hide from everyone, and she turned in secret. Now, I can understand that leading to the death of one or two people. But how does one child zombie kill dozens of people? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know. That didn't add up. I don't see how that's possible. Another problem I had this episode was Althea. Not with her personally as a character, but just from the fact that they hyped her up a lot, and in the first episode she was awesome, but ever since she's just kind of been there. She hasn't really done much, and she's starting to feel slightly underused. Literally all she did in this episode was drive the van and film the final confrontation. That was it. She didn't even get a lot of dialogue in this episode, and she hasn't for a while. Nothing particularly significant. It's just every time we see her, it's like they're using her less and less. And I hope that turns around soon, because I really do like her as a character, and I think it'd be very unfortunate if they just didn't use her. But I will end on a positive. The episode ended with the quintessential Walking Dead cliffhanger. Your initial response is knee-jerk anger, but then as you think about it later on, you're like, okay, I think I kind of understand that now. Because that's what happened with me after Alicia shot John Dory at the end. I was like, why? Why would you do such a thing? But then after I had finished filming my reaction, I started thinking, I'm like, she was aiming for Naomi, and John got in the way. That part took a second to sink in for me, but it did eventually. And that is the kind of thing that The Walking Dead was really good at a long time ago, and still occasionally can do pretty well. But I mean, like, back in season 2, episode 3, that ended with Shane shooting Otis and leaving him for dead while they were on the mission to get medical supplies for Carl. Now I remember my response to that was, oh my god, Shane, what are you doing? How could you? You are sick. You are evil. You are a bad guy now. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, he did do it for Carl, and I do understand his reasoning. And with Alicia shooting John Dory, I don't know what her reasoning is, but I have a few ideas, and if they turn out to be right, then it will make sense. Because it's looking like Naomi betrayed them and joined the Vultures. So, you know, that would probably make Alicia shooting her a little more understandable. Well, trying to shoot her. And also, I was too horrified at the thought of John Dory dying to immediately realize that he's not actually dead yet. And I do believe that he will survive. They've built him up too much as well. And that'd be an even bigger waste, because he's everybody's favorite character. Best performance of the episode this week. I kind of gave her the short end of the stick last week just because Garrett Dillahunt was so good. He just stole the show as John Dory. But this week, Jenna Elfman was the best one in the episode, because her emotional reveal to Madison and Strand about what happened to her daughter, that was really emotional and really well done. And like, I've said this before, I've never really cared about Jenna Elfman as an actress at all. But, you know, this showed that she has some legitimate chops in her. And I applaud her for it. Overall, I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. It had some minor issues, but those were more than compensated for by the fact that it had the classic Walking Dead cliffhanger. And that is the hook that The Walking Dead used to be known for, but sadly in the last couple seasons that has sort of dropped off a bit. But here they nailed it. Fear the Walking Dead just nailed it again, and it's really catching up to the main show really quick. So that'll do it for this video. I will see you next time, and if John Dory dies, we riot.